Joining us on POTUS is Representative John Garamendi. He represents the 3rd Congressional District in California. He tweets at Rep. Garamendi. He's a member of Armed Services as well as Transportation and Infrastructure Committees, both to our purposes on the program. Congressman, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Good to be with you, and good morning.
Two big hot stories, both related to some of what you do on the Hill, one of which is, of course, the story we've been discussing all morning, which is Michael Flynn, who is out as National Security Advisor. Just sort of your general reaction to that news today and what your concerns might be going forward.
Well, I've always been concerned about Flynn. I just had a bad feeling about the man, that he wasn't honest, that he was somehow duplicitous and far, far too close to Russia. And so he's gone. That's good. Who comes in to replace him? I think it's somebody that has to be really balanced, somebody that is trustworthy, that understands that facts are really important, that you can't have alternative facts, that you really need to have the very best solid information making decisions about this nation's security. The 3 men that are mentioned, I think each one has attributes. One of them clearly has some problems. General Petraeus, with his conviction for mishandling classified information. We'll see. It's up to the president, but I hope he chooses somebody that is really knowledgeable, capable, trustworthy, and really wants to base decisions on facts.
Are you one of those who would believe that it would be appropriate to have a select committee or a separate committee investigating what took place?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got some real serious questions about what's gone on with Russia, with Putin, and Trump, and the various people that have been surrounding Trump, from his previous campaign manager, who left in the middle of the campaign, to more recently, certainly the Flynn situation, as well as Trump. What is his relationship to Russia? What kind of investments? Who's been backing? What kind of financial backing has he had from the Russian oligarchs? All of those questions are extraordinarily important to understand, and we need to get to the bottom of all of it, because transparency and openness must be part of the American government.
Once again, Congressman John Garamendi is with us here on POTUS. Congressman, your district is right by isn't that the Oroville Dam? Isn't it right in your district?
Yes. 150,000 of my constituents were evacuated from Marysville and Yuba City area. The Oroville Dam is just 15 miles upstream from those cities, and I spent most of yesterday at Oroville Dam getting familiar with what is going on, watching and observing, and providing some knowledge and information that I have after many, many years in California water situations.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm just going to say it was and remains a very, very serious situation. The emergency spillway was clearly compromised. They're working hard to shore it up, to provide the very best possibility that it would not collapse. But could it? If it did collapse, there'd be a 30-foot wall of water that would inundate Oroville, which is less than a mile downstream, to 100 feet deep. And then as it goes on down the river, 20, 30 feet of water over the 2 cities that I mentioned, Marysville and Yuba City. Extremely serious potential catastrophe. Seems to be stabilized. They're drawing down the reservoir and getting ready for the next rain coming in on Thursday.
And there's a front page picture in the Washington Post today, which gives people a much better idea about the water surging down the main spillway. And yesterday, the governor of California, Jerry Brown, talked about how this was just another pointer toward the need for infrastructure spending.
We're not talking about a few million. We're talking about tens of billions. And that's why I was very glad to see President Trump announced his $1 trillion infrastructure program, which I fully embrace, and I will strive to make sure California gets 12%.
Congressman, you're on transportation and infrastructure. Give us a sense of whether or not there is a possibility for projects like that dam or other related projects around the country to get some treatment as a result of not just the fact that they're falling apart, but that there just seems to be a need around the country for some of this work to be done.
Well, absolutely. We have an enormous need for infrastructure investment, not only new infrastructure, but just to maintain the old infrastructure. This particular dam is 60 years old, and the spillway was never properly completed. It was just a dirt spillway with a concrete lip, and that's that created the problem. So, they tried to save a few pennies 50 years ago, and the result was a serious, maybe $250 million problem going forward. But that's just one example. We have to make wise choices, and it's imperative that those choices be in the interest of building the economy and the safety of America. For example, a $30 billion or $20 billion wall along the Mexican border, what does it get us? Spend 30 or 40 billion, 20 or 30 billion dollars on infrastructure, repairing our dams, building new reservoirs, and sanitation, water systems, transportation systems, repair our bridges. Those are the things that really create future economic growth and provide the safety that we need in our communities. So can we do it in Congress? We'll see. Right now that Trump has not made a specific proposal. He talks about $1 trillion of private investment. I don't know how you're going to get $250 million to repair the Oroville Dam from private investors. It seems to me that makes no sense at all. So we're going to have to finance it. And I suppose we'll use the credit card, but that's a problem in the deficit. So where's the financing? We got to make choices. Do we spend $1 trillion on revamping our entire nuclear arsenal, from submarines to intercontinental ballistic missiles and new bombs and new airplanes and all the rest? Or do we spend it on building the fundamental infrastructure and educating our children?
Congressman, I'm going to ask a question that sort of seems out of left field maybe, but you just referred to President Trump as Trump. I heard Senator Schumer refer to him yesterday as Trump, and I have heard occasionally recently members of the Congress refer to him as Trump. And albeit the fact is that there are some niceties that we typically exercise within Congress, that would be to refer to the president as the president or President Trump, just as it was President Obama, even when Republicans were criticizing him. I'm wondering if Democrats feel that it's okay, or if that's just the way it came out, or if he's different in some ways, or is that just a one-off there?
Well, first of all, I heard differently than you did. I heard Obama everywhere, from Republicans to members of Congress and senators and so forth. So I think it's frankly common to refer to the president nowadays by their last name, Obama or Trump. But Trump is different. There's no doubt it's different. He's plastered his name on every building you can find across the United States, on every tie, and I don't know, probably even underwear. So Trump is Trump, and that's how I'm going to refer to him. If he is president in a formal setting, I'll use the word president. But
okay, I was just asking, and my recollection was that when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker, she always referred to, when she was Speaker Pelosi, she always referred to President Bush, and the same thing with the leader. Even Senator McConnell has always referred to him as President Obama. That was my recollection, but I may be wrong about that. It just struck me in the last couple of days that I've heard it more often than not. And it seemed odd for the Senate minority leader to use that expression, but again, my ears may be tuned a little differently, and it's hard to remember what things were 8 years ago.
Well, you're probably listening to more polite conversation.
I like to think this show is all about that. So,
well, indeed it is.
Well, I wish the constituents, and I'm sure a lot of America's watching, because there's nothing worse than being taken out of your home and not wondering if it's going to be there the next day. Because
there is enormous concern, and I was at one of the evacuation centers yesterday morning. They're mostly young families with kids out of school and trying to do the best they can. The unknowns are there. We should hear something later today when the sun is up, maybe around noonday, as to whether the shoring up of that emergency spillway is sufficient, and whether the water is dropping fast enough to allow people to come back home.
All right. Well, at some point, we'll also, I'm sure, have an opportunity to get into things like executive orders on immigration, but our time is up for today. We'll look forward to having you back on the show, but thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you.
That is Representative John Garamendi, Democrat from California. A couple of big issues: Michael Flynn's resignation as the National Security Advisor, as well as the Oroville Dam, which is on Lake Oroville in his district, about 150 miles from San Francisco. And getting a sense, although the water levels are dropping there, we understand that there is less of a threat now for the flooding, but still a scary time for those nearly 200,000 people who were evacuated in that area. Congressman Garamendi tweeting at Rep. Garamendi, at Rep. Garamendi.